We begin today with an update on a story we've covered closely here at RT, the case of Army Private Bradley Manning. Pretrial hearings continue today, and while not much was discussed inside the courtroom, interesting developments have emerged outside of it. The government announced today that it would start releasing court documents filed throughout the pretrial process after receiving numerous Freedom of Information Act requests from journalists. So what does this mean for the trial moving forward, or for his case? Joining me now to break it all down is RT's own Andrew Blake. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Liz.
So far, documents and information on this case have been very scarce. So is this announcement significant?
I mean, it's incredibly significant, I mean, on paper at least, which is a weird choice of words. But yeah, this case has been going on for a very long time now. You know, Bradley was arrested May 2010, and these pretrial motions have been occurring for over the last year now. And he's not even going to be tried until June at this point, which will be over 3 years since he's been arrested. Mm-hmm. And throughout this entire process, the court has released nothing. The judge has released none of her rulings. There's been no transcripts that have been made public. No information whatsoever about this case has been able to come out of the courtroom, except when it comes out of the people, the very few members of the media who have been paying attention. So this is really significant, the fact that it's the first time ever that the government's actually letting the rest of the world, the people who can't make the drive out to Fort Meade, Maryland, to see what's actually happening in the case. But also at the same time, it's heavily redacted and comes a little bit as too little too late. What we're being handed now is 84 documents out of 500. I believe there's something like 30,000 pages altogether have been entered into the court, but when are we going to see those? It's already, you know, some of the stuff that we're looking at here is already a year old. Mm-hmm. So
you got some of it there, some of the documents. What is in those documents that you are holding right now?
Not a whole lot that we don't already know, to be honest, because what comes out of here are rulings from inside the court. During the last year, Manning's defense attorney, David Coombs, on his part, he has actually gone and published his own matters that were introduced in the court, like his own pleas, his own take on the thing, and has actually been really keeping people following up on the case up to date on this, because he is the only way people have been able to actually find out from inside the courtroom, with the exception of the media. So a lot of stuff that we've heard, just, you know, basic motions, rulings, stuff like that, you know, we hear on a day-by-day basis as this case keeps dragging on. But for the people who are actually reporting on this, the people who we have to rely on the facts for, the few members of the media who are actually going to Fort Meade and reporting on the case against Bradley Manning, they aren't provided this information. So when you hear that Bradley Manning was in court today and he said this, that, and the other thing, we only have the word of the journalists who provide us with that information. And there aren't many of them. Mm-hmm. The government has tried to make sure that even though this is an open door proceeding, nothing really escapes that room. And, you know, there's a great piece in The Guardian today by Ed Pinkleton, something like that. All right, I hope he doesn't see this. But he had a great piece today where he was actually saying that, you know, this whole thing is kind of just like a farce, that the government is trying to, you know, tell people that, oh no, we're not silencing anyone, this is like a open door meeting. But, you know, they're going after a whistleblower, alleged whistleblower accused of releasing sensitive information, and the information that they're finally providing us with the case doesn't really say much at all. Mm-hmm.
So you have these documents, but this kind of just scratches the surface. As you said, there's thousands of documents. Are we expecting to see those come out anytime soon?
Well, the government, what they said is that because due to the sheer magnitude, these papers are very, the volumes of them are just quite extensive. Like I said, 30,000 pages, over 500 documents have been entered in the court. As they go over and review and redact and analyze these documents slowly but surely, we're expected to have these come into the public. But meanwhile, we're not given any sort of date when that's going to happen. Like these papers are from hearings that stretch from January 2012 and through February 2013, and there are no court transcripts in here. What these rulings, or what these papers are essentially, are rulings from the judge and motions introduced by the defense and the prosecutors that are facts that we've already heard from the case, just a little bit more specifically, because now they're actually written down in front of us, and journalists aren't sitting there trying to scratch out what's being said. And you know what the Guardian report said was that yesterday, Colonel Denise Lind, the military judge presiding over this case, she made two different rulings regarding the pre-trial, speedy trial whole snafu. And One of those took over an hour and a half to read. So that's an hour and a half where journalists are sitting in a media room and members of the public are sitting in the courtroom trying to pay attention to an hour and a half reading, spoken by a judge with no regard seemingly to anyone else except, the people directly involved in this case. So this is the first time that the government's actually willing to provide the media with any sort of help, assistance.
So today is some kind of a turning point. Another thing that happened this week, the judge denied dropping the charges. The defense was asking that these charges against the Army private be dropped due to the conditions that the Army private was subjected to leading up.
Well, yeah, this was actually the second time that they refused to dismiss charges against Bradley Manning. Last month they were hoping to have these charges dismissed because, he was staying at Quantico for months, and the UN said that these conditions were tantamount to torture and it was just cruel and inhumane. And Colonel Denise Lind eventually said, okay, well, we'll take 112 days off of whatever sentence you can get, which could be life behind bars.
But he's still facing these charges. Andrew, thanks so much for that update. That was RT Web producer Andrew Blake.